You are very welcome to our session on FinTech in EECAN or ECAN. My name is Olivia Minnick and I'm editor at FinTech Alliance, a government-backed digital ecosystem for UK FinTech. We work in conjunction with GIT to provide FinTechs access to market, access to capital, and access to talent here in the UK. But much like FinTech, we're also going global. We aim to enter new markets in line with the UK's FinTech bridges, as well as other opportunities, and support UK FinTech in their expansion abroad, as well as foreign FinTechs entering the UK. So that's why I'm delighted to be chairing today's event, which aims to help UK FinTechs explore markets across Eastern Europe and Central Asia that they may otherwise not have had the knowledge or support to grow into. For the uninitiated, the EECAN is made up of 14 countries: Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Georgia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Moldova, Mongolia, Russia, Tajikistan, Turkey, Turkmenistan, Ukraine, and Uzbekistan. Easy for me to say. That's really a vast and diverse landscape to look at, and we'll be hearing more about some of those exciting markets today. But for now, I would like to introduce Bolat and Konstantin, who are going to, they're from KPMG, and they're going to talk about Kazakhstan and Central Asia.
Yes, hello everyone. I hope I heard well. Yes, my name is Konstantin Aushev. I'm head of IT digital advisory practice for KPMG in Kazakhstan and Central Asia. Today we would like to make a overview of FinTech development steps in the region of Central Asia. And we see this sub-region is very important, and this is why we decided to present together with Bolat. Bolat, I think you'll introduce yourself.
Yeah, good day, colleagues. Thanks for having us here and giving this opportunity to actually share views. And before us, our colleagues shared very interesting information regarding their regions of presence. So yes, as Konstantin said already, we're going to present a joint view from KPMG perspective on the market in Kazakhstan, FinTech market, and in Central Asia countries, including Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, and Kyrgyzstan. And my name is Bolat, as I said, and I'm heading a Strategy and Operations group in that region. And together with Konstantin, completed a number of projects for strategy development, banks, digital strategy development, business unit strategies development for different banks, components like retail banking, SME banking, and etc. So we also see a number of new opportunities and growing potential for FinTech industry specialists. So I'd like to share with you what we see. It's our observation on the current state of affairs and some forward-looking perspective as well. So yes, if you allow, we can then switch to the presentation. Konstantin?
Yes. Yeah, let's start with a brief overall view on the FinTech market in Central Asia. As I said, we see it quite interesting in terms of the recent steps from regulators and from the market itself. If we see to the figures on the market size, if in terms of e-commerce, yeah, we see that the figures are not so impressive as, for example, on Asian countries, but still quite big. We see that the most prospective and most interesting countries are probably Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. And on this markets, regulatory authorities are also very active. The most mentioned in mass media now is Astana International Financial Centers with its own supervisory authority and with own FinTech authorities, with own FinTech hubs, and so on. So it's like such a possible solution for the realization of FinTech potential of the whole Central Asia. And they do a lot of events, and so a lot of different business development topics, and so on and so on. In terms of people as well, we see that region is quite big. It's about 38 active internet users and about 30 more potential FinTech services users. We also see that we have quite a few accelerating factors for FinTech development. namely financial inclusion. It's really growing, as we will see on the next slides. We see a very demanding users and really improving infrastructure. We still have some regulatory issues, and we'll talk about them in country perspectives, but the situation is improving, and we have a very active dialogues between ministries, between national banks, and between fintech and banking associations. In terms of delaying factors, we still have a low internet penetration especially in rural areas. These figures differs much between different cities, different sub-regions, and so on. The situation in Kazakhstan is better. It's about 80% internet penetration, and it is even better in large cities. But the problem is that we have just about 4 such large cities. Average mobile access is 60%, but it also differs from country to country and from region to region. On the next slide, let's see more details on Kazakhstan. Yeah. So what we see here, we would like to talk on the regulation. We actively, as a KPMG, we actively work with National Bank, with Astana International Financial Center, and we were actively involved in different market development steps. In particular, we developed together with National Bank payment market development strategy. It was in 2017. And now some initiatives, some projects from the strategy were already realized, including the launch of remote interbank identification, and that allow customers of different, this allows customer to become the customer of another banks easier, in an easier way, without visit to banks and so on. And there are also plans to include in this, to connect to this platform users of different fintech startups. Another step that has been done by National Bank of Kazakhstan is development of such a, I would say, deep financial market digitalization strategy. It was developed together with international consultants, and it was published in the special landing page in the internet. You can get acquainted with it. It is free of charge, and it's quite interesting. One of the points that already has been realized, it's liberalization of stock market. Now banks can provide a wide range of broker services to its customers in an online mode without additional paper-based contracts and so on. Also from Astana International Financial Center, where regulatory matter is based on leading international practices from London, from United Arab Emirates, and so on. One particular step that they have done, it's more detailed, more precise legislation and regulatory statements regarding ICO, regarding crypto assets trading, crypto assets exchange, and so on. And also the influenced the acceptance of some change in the overall Republic legislation that provided a definition of blockchain, of crypto assets, and so on. Of course, it's just a small step towards the real fintech boom, but still, we hope that this will help to accelerate further our fintech market. We also have a wide range of financial fintech hubs, fintech accelerator programs, venture funds, and so on. Here are the logo of some of them. They have a separate fintech programs, fintech labs, hackathons, and so on. And as a result, we see that several startups already appeared on the market. We have such a shift towards payments and loans, but well, this is the beginning. And now it's quite difficult to count the actual number of fintech startups, but the market estimates are around 50, 60 fintech startups on Kazakhstan market in all fields: payments, insurance, payments, loans, insurtech, trading, and so on. Well, I think this were the major point for Kazakhstan. Let's move to Kyrgyzstan. Which yes, a successful case in Kyrgyzstan. Maybe you have heard about this case. It's Caspi KZ. It's one of the most mentioned case in all recent conferences, webinars, and so on. Actually, Caspi is a local bank who now does not call itself as a bank, but more like just Caspi or just or ecosystem or Caspi ecosystem, and maybe it is doubtful in terms of used technologies of launched IT initiatives, but still it is really a very successful case, successful example of moving from a traditional bank towards such a platform, such an ecosystem with a wide range of partners in different spheres. So they started with online shop, which now is a most visitable marketplace on the Kazakhstan market. It is for me, Caspi case is a real example of good collaboration between both inside and outside teams, between marketing, IT teams inside and and different partners. So let's move to Kyrgyzstan.
Can I, Kostya, just one kind of thing from my side regarding Caspi, because I also consider this bank as a very good example. We started it in land during our previous project for first private equity report in Kazakhstan. And yes, back in 2006, when Beringvostok actually became as an investor, private equity investor, and this bank started developing its own kind of strategy and no operational model. And as you see, it took almost 15 years to achieve that what is now. Its current market capitalization is already exceeds maybe twice as the biggest bank in Kazakhstan, Halyk Bank, and also it exceeds the bank which is quite similar, Tinkoff Bank, to some extent. So yeah, this is the case. What we believe, as Konstantin rightly mentioned, that perhaps it's not a pure fintech case, but it does encompasses a number of features of fintech, including in-house various units who actually develop those products themselves. So yeah, like for example, e-wallets and payment systems, etc. So for us, this is the case that shows how it could be actually developed into something new, yeah, like a neobank, the bank that really kind of closely work with those solutions we will talk about. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Bolat. For Kyrgyzstan, let's move to this country. It's a very small country, both in terms of population and the area, but still the people there are very active and in all commerce fields, including the financial sector. And here we see a good penetration of e-wallets for years. It's this trend started several years ago, and in large cities, we see a lot of active users of these wallets. And also in terms of regulation, here National Bank also, like in neighborhood countries, launched an initiative on a launch of regulatory sandbox, and this year, at the beginning of the year, NBK also developed the concept for development of digital payment technologies in the country for upcoming 3 years. And Kyrgyzstan also have some fintech hubs and incubators and accelerator parks, which working now on development of fintech market. Okay, Bolat, will you continue on other countries?
Yes, yes, thanks. Thanks, Konstantin. Regarding Uzbekistan, we actually started working with this market as KPMG back in 2018 in July. We started the large program aimed at development of banks in this country, and since that, during more than 2 years now, we get acquainted ourselves with the financial market in this country. And to me personally, also a kind of interesting case, because as you know, this country was locked to some extent due to the policy that was actually run by the ex-team, the president and the team. And now the country has opened its, I would say, borders in all means, and we see a dramatic change in the pace of new developments, especially regarding the banking sector and especially regarding this fintech growing market. So yes, it's still predominantly a state-owned banking system. So it's more than 85% of loans totally is actually government-owned, state-owned banks which contribute to that market. At the same time, we also see that now a new strategy for banking industry development was developed and issued. And now there is a presidential decree which the main purpose is to make a transformational program for the largest state-owned banks in Uzbekistan. So at least 5 banks now, they undergone or about to start a huge transformational program. And we also see that within their strategies, new strategies that they implemented, and also within new initiatives and ideas, they all understand not only local, state banks, but also private banks as well, that fintech solutions should be incorporated into the new future strategies. And we receive a lot of interest and requests to actually reveal what is opportunities in terms of collaboration between banks and fintech services providers, both in Uzbekistan and outside. As there is a tremendous interest also from the outside investors for this local market, for local banking market, because in terms of the population, this is the largest country in the whole CIS region. And back in 2019, it was named as a country of reforms by economists. So a lot of new opportunities happening, and yes, we as KPMG also see that a lot of interest from potential investors, especially in the financial markets. I would like to mention that it's still kind of being dominated by local payment systems like Humo, Uzcard. However, yes, we see the increase in number of activities and usage of Visa and MasterCard and as the rest payment system providers, which means that the more population become kind of accustomed to use online payment. It's still a cash economy. However, the pace of this change is also quite dramatic. We do not have maybe now the statistics for what the proportion of cashless economy. However, what we observe from other consultants, our colleagues, and just as regular users, we see that a number of businesses now, they actually provide you this opportunity to pay over those POS or other means, online means, so that this trend will be picking up for future. There's no doubt about this. This is only one perhaps digital or neobank in the country, but as we see with what we now observe from working with those banks, a number of banks now, they would like to actually implement this ecosystem type of business model, and yes, they're interested in developing their own trading platforms, including different components, and becoming more skewed towards this ecosystem type of model rather than purely a traditional banking model. One of the interesting case is how TBC Bank, a Georgian leading bank, acquired PayMe, about 51% of local, one of the most, I would say, successful payment system. And yes, they actually acquired a good platform with more than 1 million active users. And now this bank is, it started working, and our understanding and also perspective from local players that this trend will continue. A number of international banks also considering Uzbekistan banking market as an interesting opportunity actually for growth. So we expect some new players to come, and that of course will also kind of influence the level of development of fintech market in this country in particular. There are a number of already players, some actually established back in 2007, 2006. Some of them appeared slightly later in 2015, and a number of new players are also now appearing due to those changes that are happening. And also worth mentioning that the Central Bank of Uzbekistan is also adopting new policies, and it become more, I would say, mobile in terms of understanding the current trends which are happening, and yes, kind of lowering the barriers for regulation, which gives those opportunities for companies, especially fintech startups, to actually perform their service. In terms of potential, yes, it is still kind of behind lagging, but out of 4 countries, maybe Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, for now, they have, I would say, area for development and opportunities to actually work. I wouldn't specifically mention those parameters. I believe this presentation will be shared lately. If you have an interest, you can see statistics which we share across those countries. Another interesting case, successful case in Uzbekistan, this Click, a nationwide financial platform with active users more than 5 million. And that was one of the kind of interesting case because still being kind of closed market before 2017, when there is a more or less dramatic change in the banking sector, but they started it back in 2011, doing some payments between citizens, mostly amongst customers, and then B2C, B2B. They also quite heavily use Telegram as a means to actually do P2P lending and transfers. And now they have a new kind of strategy, an idea how to evolve further, as there is already evolved Click, and now they're becoming more kind of established and developed player in the market. And the last country from the region which we covered is Tajikistan. We completed a number of also banking projects in that country. From kind of very first glance, this is the less developed in terms of potential growth of fintech. However, yes, in terms of population, it's twice as big as, for example, Kyrgyzstan. And given that the population is also a number of population, actually there is a labor migration quite substantial. Those means that a lot of opportunities to serve border transactions. And in this country, we see a lot of opportunities, given the lack of competition currently. However, yeah, there are some fundamental obstacles which actually lead to this kind of situation. And one of the most successful cases, perhaps, this is the Alif Group. It's already a first one in kind new bank in Tajikistan. They provide services, the bank, the payment system, e-wallet. They provide trading platform, first in the country. And they try to also enhance and increase the number of cashless payments with their systems. So even though by all means it's kind of lagging behind, but if you work carefully, especially with individuals and small and medium-sized, for which there is a huge also opportunities for financial inclusion. Then yes, for fintech companies, there is also a good, I would say, area for development as well. Konstantin, would you please this much stuff here?
Just briefly, yes, just because we have overtimed already. As a KPMG, we have a wide range of global projects towards working with fintech because we also see a potential of this. The most important of it of them is maybe KPMG Machi. This is the platform that helps us to bring together startups, including fintech startups, with corporate players who would like to drive further their innovation transformation projects and to expand their ecosystems. We also have different instruments towards that helps clients to search insights, to bring different opinions from different market participants, to assess the maturity level of current digital state and so on. And this instruments helps us to develop an interesting local project, KPMG Digital Village. Bolat, would you present on first slide?
Just briefly, this is a new initiative. It started in Singapore. KPMG Singapore actually implemented this idea. This is the idea to become a bridge between corporates and startup community. So we as KPMG see a lot of opportunities in terms of operational improvements, enhancement from the perspective of corporates. And we also see that on the right-hand side, we have new startups, including fintechs. We can provide actually and close those gaps that we see on the left-hand side. So the idea is simple. We just see what is the demand side, what is the actually supply side, and we try to, bridge this gap by working together with them. So we are already part of this ecosystem. We have a premise in the Astana hub, work closely, and it's a new development. However, we already have some interesting ideas how to further develop and work out same shared goal. Yes, and as Konstantin quite briefly touched this, of course, there are a lot of obstacles and challenges that the region faces. I think the major one, which maybe also you can see it in each country, is its lack of understanding and maybe lack of mobility from the government. And so yes, the central banks are quite rigorous and quite they're quite conservative in terms of regulation, and not always they are willing to change their model quite swiftly and address the requirements they need from the market. So this, I think, is quite unique to all countries. It's a kind of a shared common thing for the development. However, another good development is now the policies are changing and central banks become more agile in this sense. And it's also actually touches each country from that region. There are a lot of risks associated with technology, like cybersecurity risk, all being affected at the same level. All landlocked countries in most cases with relatively small markets and sometimes with low disposable income, which also influences how our international investors actually see those markets. So those are fundamental problematics, I would say. But at the same time, it gives some opportunities for newcomers, and especially for those who establish those big barriers, and then they can actually have the advantages of first comers and establishing new standards, as what we see, for example, in Kazakhstan, and now what we see what is emerging in Uzbekistan. More or less, those are the main obstacles, and in general, they're quite, I would say, doable.
Yeah, just to sum up positive things, what we see as a potential for further development of fintech market and maybe the particular interest for investors. First of all, some niches. So we see that globally now there is a boom of insurtech players, of regtech, suptech players, and investment technology startups. But in Kazakhstan, we have almost nothing, maybe just some insurance players, but they do just some part of really digital and technology initiatives. And also some drivers. I will not read through all of them. I just will mention that regulatory supervisory board authorities in all these countries are now very open. They are really ready to hear some insights, to lead, to have some dialogues with different players, with different associations, consultants, investors, and so on and so on. And they're really keen on development of the market. And another point is that the legislation is really active, and it is quite hard to be in course of all the changes that we have now. And another point that statistics on the market is also very active and changes from month to month. So to be to have a good understanding of the market, it is really a good way to have to examine the statistical reports from time to time.
And also one thing to add, actually this COVID, the whole crisis, I think in each country, it showed that this development of these technologies actually become apparent for the governments, and now at least governments in Kazakhstan and as we see in Uzbekistan, they put actually as a priority those digital transformation programs across the country. So yes, they definitely will influence the fintech industry, banking industry. So the opportunities are actually a midterm and a more long-term from perspective of midterm and long-term. So I believe this market has a lot of potential to explore. Yes, thanks, colleagues. I believe this is all from us.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.